Hey guys, my name's Mannequin and welcome back to EDM Pro Tips. This starts a little mini-series inside of EDM Pro Tips. I'm going to talk about upgrading your studio, basically. And I'm going to talk about software, hardware, different things and everything like that. Kind of when should you upgrade, how far should you upgrade, how much should you spend, and kind of things like that. This is something that is easy to get caught up in what's called gear snobbery is another thing we're going to have to worry about. But first I want to kind of touch on the various aspects of things that you could kind of look into by way of hardware or software or things like that. So the first thing I want to touch on, just going to kind of give you an overview of the series. It might not be in the right order, but it'll just kind of give you an overview of what I'm going to cover. But by way of things to buy, first thing I want to touch on is software. A lot of people don't really count software as studio equipment because, first of all, it's not tangible. You can't like feel it most of the time unless you buy a box, but most of the time you just buy it off the internet now. So not a lot of people consider it a crucial part, but you know, a lot of your work is going to be in this software, so you kind of need to pay attention to what you're getting. And also, I am going to make a plug here. Don't pirate the stuff. And like, I know some people do, and some people say, you know, oh, this is how you can get it for free. I am never going to support that just because I know people can't afford the software as easily, but at the same time, the people that make the software actually need the support. And it's a small tangent here. I won't spend too much on this because I know it kind of bugs people. But the deal with piracy is, yes, you're not like stealing something per se. You're just copying it, so that you're not actually like walking into a store and taking something and then they have less to sell. But the deal is, the people that make this software still live off of this money. So so when you have small development teams that make software, they can't afford dinner because too many people are pirating their software. So it is a big deal, and it helps when you guys actually buy the software and support the teams that make it. Yes, there are some bigger names out there. I'm not going to name them off the top of my head just because I don't want to bother, but there are some bigger names out there that can do without the support, but at the same time, it's still their software. So just pay for it. I mean, it is expensive, but in all honesty, if you just save up and buy Logic, which, oh, by the way, you can get on sale if you watch Tech Bargains or Slick Deals, there will be iTunes gift cards that go on sale, and you could get, usually you could get Logic for like $160 if you catch a good sale on iTunes gift cards, and you just use those. That's what I did for Logic. So I didn't spend $200, I only spent like $160. But if you save up and buy Logic, you could actually go throughout your entire career as a producer and never feasibly have to buy any more software than that. You could just use free plugins and stuff like that, and you really can do a great job. So it's like it's doable without those extra plugins. So kind of just keep that in mind. If you save up and get Logic, then at the same time, you don't really have to worry about, you know, getting all these other plugins. Well, if you do want to save up for those to get those, I do kind of suggest some of those. But I'll get in more into which ones to look at in the following episodes. But I just kind of want to do that quick plug here that really it is actually a big thing when you go into and help support a team so that they could do more and actually keep going. Like I said, KV331 Audio is the one that I like to support just because I like their software, I like the way their team behaves, I like their company model, like the way they interact with their customers and the way they do updates and stuff like that, and they offer like free upgrades and stuff like that. It's really cool how they work, so I really want to support that and I want to keep that sort of thing going. So that's why I buy their stuff, because I want to see them continue to, you know, move forward and be able to continue doing this. So it is a huge thing to actually buy the software and not just like download it off the internet for free. So anyway, moving on to the more fun things per se. So now we have a couple other things that I want to touch on. So you could get, there are these things called studio monitors, which if you haven't heard of them before, they're basically giant speakers. And then there are headphones that you can get that are very high quality. And I'm going to say this right now, no beats. No beats. Please no. And then you can get things what are called audio interfaces, and this is a way to get high quality audio from your computer. Usually you think, oh, I'll just plug it into the headphone jack on my computer. Dandy, but that's actually not all that great quality. You do want to upgrade to something that is designed for work with audio. You don't have to worry about it right off the bat. That's one of the things you get later on, but it is kind of something to keep in mind. Fourth thing is, Microphones. Are you going to record anything? If you ever want to record a vocalist in your studio, you're going to need a good microphone. Using an iPhone or a computer microphone or something like that is just not going to cut it. You have to actually buy a good microphone. And then the fifth and final thing that I'm going to touch on in this series is MIDI controllers. And what MIDI controllers are is there's two different sections you could go for. You could go for a MIDI controller designed for production, or you could go for a MIDI controller designed for live performances. And in those different sections, there's completely different things. Like for live performances, you could get a synthesizer style MIDI keyboard, or you could get a DJ controller, which kind of showed you why I said MIDI controller and not just like keyboard or something like that, because those are both run under the MIDI protocol is what it's called. It's basically just a way for the hardware to talk to your software. And there are DJ controllers that you could use, and there are also the things that look like synthesizers that will control your synthesizers inside Logic and stuff like that. So so there's a lot by way of MIDI controllers that you could potentially go into. A lot of people have heard of, you know, the things that look like the CDJs and stuff like that. There's that type of DJ controller, and then there's also the launch pads and stuff like that. And then there's things that are a combination of both, and they're coming out with more funky stuff nowadays. But anyway, there's a whole lot you can get into by way of those. So I just kind of want to touch on the various things that we're going to be looking at here in this video, and I also want to touch on gear snobbery in this video. And that is, it's basically when you get caught up in buying gear. It's really easy to get caught up in buying gear. That's part of the reason that I have decided to actually purchase my software, and I'm actually, you know, using a lot of free plugins, because that keeps me from getting into the mindset of gear snobbery, because I'll talk about it right now, but you kind of got to stay away from that mindset. So what gear snobbery is basically when you get into any field, even if it's music, if it's I don't know, art, if it's basically any field out there, you think, oh, I can't do X because I don't have Y. And it's kind of true in some regards, but it's something that a lot of people get caught up in. So for example, you think, oh, I can't make a good EDM track until I have this synthesizer, or I can't make a good EDM track till I have high quality studio monitors, or if you put me in the studio that this producer has, I can make a hit as good as them. That's what a lot of people get caught up in. Now, you might think, oh, I don't get caught up in that. But then you'll find yourself researching, okay, what studio monitors do I need to get because my kicks don't sound good, and they're not going to sound good until I get studio monitors. So you might not actually think you're a victim of that, and you're kind of like subject to that sort of mindset. But then you'll actually go in and you'll find yourself doing small portions of that mindset for things. Like I said, if you think your kicks don't sound good and they sound really bad, and you're just like, oh, when I get studio monitors, I'll be able to know what I'm listening for, and I'll hear everything right, and I'll be able to EQ it right and everything like that. Actually, the case. The answer is really no. I didn't learn to really EQ kicks correctly till actually a couple months after I got my studio monitors. The studio monitors, well, they sounded amazing compared to what I was using before. They didn't improve my mixes by like tenfold. They did improve my mixes quite a bit, but that's just because the speakers I was using was so bad. But that's kind of like, you know, everyone when they move to studio monitors, that's how they feel. But at the same time, there were things that it definitely didn't improve, and they were probably my biggest problems that it didn't improve. It only improved some of the smaller things. So really, you need to not get caught up in gear snobbery. And like I said, part of the thing that people do this a lot with is software. They don't realize it, but because of piracy now, people can go around and just download any software whenever they want for free without any effort for them. And the problem with that is you get caught up, oh, my track's not sounding good, I'll go download this synthesizer that I saw this famous person using. And then I'll be able to have much better synthesizers. Yes and no. Yes, because a lot of those synthesizers have better presets than Logic's built-in ones, but no, because that's not going to actually make you a better producer. Like I've seen a lot of videos on the topic of gear snobbery, and one of the things that they say is it's not buying this new gear is not going to make you a better producer, and it's an easy thing to brush over because you think, oh, it's like, you know, it's kind of obvious the way he's saying it, but really, you really need to notice like the problem with looking into gear and thinking it's going to do something better. Now, what you should do when you're looking into gear, expecting something better, is features. If, for instance, you have, I don't know, you want, what's a good example? Let's say you don't have a dynamic EQ or something like that, and you really want a dynamic EQ. What a dynamic EQ, for those that you don't know, is basically like, it's an EQ mixed with a compressor. And it's really weird because it's not like a multiband compressor. It's quite different. It's kind of like a multiband compressor with a lot more fine detail and tuning. But, so, say you really want a multiband, or not a multiband, you really want a dynamic EQ because there's something that you need for a specific project that requires that. That's when you actually look into a piece of gear or software and you're like, I need that because that has something I cannot feasibly do with what I have. That's the way you should look at gear. You should not be looking at gear for the most part saying, oh, when I get better speakers, my mixes will sound better. Well, like I said, I'm going to talk about this in the next episode. When should you upgrade? But suffice it to say right now, most of the time, you need to focus less on upgrading. Now, I do want to say one other thing in regards to this. I am not one of those people that says, don't upgrade. I'm saying you should not get caught up in upgrading. I know there's this one, Joe Gilder, bless his heart. He has HomeStudioCorner.com. He does really good podcasts and stuff on mixing and tips for mixing. Not for EDM, for more for like rock and stuff like that, for the recorded styles of music. But he does give some good advice. But one of the problems that often I found on his podcast was whenever somebody asked about a new piece of gear, his response was, you probably don't need to upgrade. And, well, it is true in a lot of cases. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, I really want to get this, but I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make. And he'll be like, I'll just, you need to worry more about focusing on mixing and don't worry so much on getting the hardware. That doesn't really answer our questions by way of, when I know I need to upgrade, what do I get? And he'll only rarely does he ever cover, that whole idea of when should you, what should you upgrade to, and not so much when should you upgrade. He kind of covers that sometimes. But the biggest issue, he doesn't really cover how much you should upgrade, what you should upgrade to, and that sort of mindset. It's just, he's kind of like trying to prevent the gear snobbery to an extreme. And it gets to the point to where you kind of get put off by it, and it's like, well, I need to upgrade eventually because like these pros, they use higher end gear and I'm like using a computer speaker. So there's going to be a point when I need to upgrade. Yes, that is true. And I'm actually going to talk about that in the next video. But like I said, I don't want to get caught up in that don't upgrade loop because then you guys don't have any idea what to do by way of when you actually need to upgrade. So, kind of covered just basically an overview of this series that I'm doing right now. Or not doing right now, but I'm going to do. And just wanted to kind of touch on the various aspects, the software, the speakers, the headphones, the microphones, the audio interfaces, and then last but not least, MIDI controllers. That one is going to be the last one because that's kind of the one that's really broad and it's like not as important as the other ones. But yeah, anyway, I just kind of want to cover a couple things in this video and kind of give an intro to the mindset of the series and what I wanted to kind of touch on. So that's pretty much it for this video. I don't think there was anything else I wanted to cover. I really wanted to hit on the 2 points in this video. Other than the overview, I wanted to talk about the fact that software is actually a key part of your studio, and I am going to talk about that more in later videos. And then gear snobbery is something you want to avoid, because the instant you get caught up in that loop of, oh, I need this to do better, then you stop producing and you start looking for gear, and that's never a good thing, because what's going to make you improve is practice and work and not actually getting the gear. While the gear can make things easier for you, it will not improve your mixes. You can improve your mixes, and that's all that will really do it. Like I said, better gear can make it easier for you to improve, but at the same time, if you just get dropped into a studio, like, let's say, there we go, someone says, okay, you could go into Hardwell's studio for a week, produce a track. You're not going to come out with something much better than what you're doing right now. I'm just going to be really honest. If you spent a week in his studio, it'd be noticeably better, but it wouldn't be like great. It wouldn't be like pro level. Like, in order to get to pro level, you need to spend lots of time working on your stuff. So it is, you know, it's a little bit disappointing when someone kind of tells you that getting new studio modules is not going to make your kick suddenly sound great. But at the same time, you know, it's kind of, it's like a reality check. You got to know these things that some pieces of gear will make the job easier, but at the same time, they're not going to make your mixes better, or they're not going to make your melodies better, or things like that. You just kind of need to remember that and keep that in mind when you're looking for gear and stuff like that. And don't worry too much about upgrading, but you'll find, like I'll talk about in the next video, you'll find there will come a time when your gear is actually holding you back, and you can really tell that as opposed to when you think you need to upgrade so you can be better. It's a very big difference, and you can tell a difference. So, but I'll talk about that more in the next video. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope the series turns out to be really good. I know some of you guys were asking me a couple questions about gear, like, is what I have good enough? What should I get? What do I need to really start producing and stuff like that? But you know, so I kind of hope this will be a great series in that regard. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.